The basics for most agents, I think you're not back to the basics. The basics for most agents are figuring where they're going to go to lunch at 12 o'clock, not actually making phone calls or doing those things. Or, hey, how do I leave early and go home to watch something? If you are not getting educated about current housing market conditions, whether you're a real estate agent, you're in title, mortgage, you're a financial advisor, accounting, or any of the other professions where people look for advice, you're doing yourself and your client base a disservice. This is the Knowledge Brokers Podcast. I'm Tom Toole here with Lisa Chinatti. And Lisa, we're seeing a big jump in mortgage rates. This just came out yesterday that mortgage rates have surged to the highest level since 2000. And investors are now bracing for a higher for longer conditions following the Fed meeting and Byron Lazine's BFF Jerome Powell's comments that there will be a rate hike later in the year. This is something that we've talked about. I think there's been some predictions that have been a little made with rose-colored glasses that we were going to see 6% rates by the end of the year. We were all skeptical on the podcast here. What is your initial reaction to the move in mortgage rates? And let's talk about what knowledge brokers should be doing in order to navigate their business in this current climate.
Yeah, locally we're seeing like 7.6. So I actually think that that's even higher than the 23-year number. I think
Yes.
We'd have to go back even further.
I think it's 23 years as of today. This article was from yesterday.
Yeah, but it might actually even be slightly further than that. Anyway, so I think the 8 is right around the corner. I think anybody who's not preparing for the 8 is making a mistake. I think that it's super important to be thinking about strategies and understanding what it means to still help consumers navigate the market, and understanding that buyer demand is, I think, going to be really soft for the foreseeable future, not non-existent. And that, I think, is something that's super important for everybody to keep in mind. Buyer demand is never going to go away, but I think we're going to, and I think actually, I know the three of us have been saying this for months, that the time to really kind of insulate your business was Q2, Q3, and that Q4 is going to feel a little bit like Q4 last year, or a lot of it like Q4 last year.
I totally agree with you. And this is also like Q4 in most markets. The 2020 and younger agent, meaning you were licensed 2020 or later, they're not used to seasonality because seasonality didn't exist. I remember those winters specifically where it was like I had like 3 days off for like the holidays, and then it was back to work, and here's what's happening. So a lot of would-be home buyers, the mortgage rates where they are now, that means the numbers aren't going to work for them. This is a reality. And that threshold, which they've now been for 7 weeks, above 7%, we've seen, almost 2 months of this. It's psychological, it's financial, and it's going to be a barrier for consumers. And this isn't meant to scare anybody. This isn't meant to make people feel like, hey, there's nothing to do. These are the realities and the facts in the marketplace. And if we're not acknowledging the brutal facts and acknowledging the data, then you can't just be optimistic for no reason. So we also know that sales declined in August. You had some data around that, which I'll let you get to. This is, we're coming up on October. We're a couple days away. This is when people start coming up with their business plans, which you probably should have an idea what you want to get done. I would argue that there's an opportunity ahead of you to aggressively insulate your first quarter if you're going to keep your head down and realize I may be talking to a lot of people and not doing a whole lot of transactions over the next 90 days. And then when the new year comes, which it always does, there's going to be an opportunity. And that to me is the mindset that folks need to have right now, because if they're not doing that, then what's going to end up happening is they're going to get to the new year. And I've seen this. I mean, my dad's been in real estate longer than I've been alive. These agents come into the office January 2nd, January 3rd. Hey, new year, new me. I'm ready to go. I'm going to go kick ass. Well, the new year starts in about 45 days. And that is something that every agent needs to be aware of. Lisa, tell us a little bit about the transaction decline. I want to kind of get into this with you a little bit here.
Yeah, so there was a report that in the month of August, pending sales fell 7.1%. That's the data that was released by NAR. And it was all four regions across the US posted month over month and year over year declines in transactions. So, kind of interesting, right? Because it speaks to something bigger than just like a local thing or a small blip, which sometimes we like to say, hey, pendings were down in my market because, or whatever. But I think when you look at it and it's happening in all four quadrants, that it's something that is telling us that it's a bigger thing going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
The pending home sales index fell to 71.8.
Ooh.
And so the index of 100, just to put it into perspective for everybody, excuse me, is the contract activity that was existing in 2001. So we're below the activity that existed in 2001. Most of us weren't in the business then, but we can probably likely understand that that volume was even lower than it was 2021, 2022, 2020, even 2019, right? So it's impactful data to be able to understand what's going on. I think the flip side, right? We always talk about what it means when transactions are down. I think it's easy to say, give yourself some grace and, what have you, because everybody's down. But the other side of it is looking at it. And I think that knowledge brokers, the folks who are following this podcast, are probably looking at businesses that are maybe flat. I know you and I have
Mm-hmm.
kind of been chatting about what it'll look like in our businesses as we wind down 2023. And I think that, maybe there's a little bit to celebrate as well, and that the things that we're doing, the activities that we're doing and encouraging folks to do are having an impact, but are going to be even more important as we head into, like you said, the last 45 days of the year.
Are you tired of taking horrible courses offered by your local realtor board or the NAR online classes? I know I am. And the fact is, you don't get a lot of value from those courses. So here's the good news. BAMX, your real estate edutainment platform, is here. You can find out how to master objections with me, the objection handling king, practiced and scripted for over 20 years. You can learn how to use ManyChat with the broke agent and Jill from BAM. You can work with Lisa Chinatti about managing your CRM, understand how to use Canva for marketing, get Instagram hacks. All this stuff is right there in BAMX. Just use the code Knowledge Brokers, educate yourself, grow your business, sell more houses. Well, and here's the challenge with these rates, right? So Zillow came out with some information that the total value of the US housing market is 49% higher than it was before the pandemic. 49% in 3 years. That number is bananas, right? What's
Yep.
49 divided by 3? Let's do the math here. And so that's over, I
16.3.
was going to
Yeah.
say over 15%. Lisa's mind works a little faster than mine. That's okay. So you're seeing incredible appreciation. So not only is affordability still this challenge we're dealing with because you've seen the numbers go up so high. Now you've got rates that are more than double where they were during, at least sometimes during the pandemic. I mean, obviously that the numbers bounced around. And
Right.
these numbers aren't going down because there's no supply. So this is going to continue to be an issue for a lot of folks. And that's all the more reason that we were talking about at BAM Camp last week. I think Byron said you've got to go wide with your conversations. You've got to go wide with the people that you're talking to. And that means you're talking to way more people than you're used to and setting the same amount of appointments because the folks that are going to be moving in this kind of climate, and let's focus on listings here because that's what everyone should be looking for, are going to be those that have the D's, right? We've heard this: death, divorce, derelocation, default, diamonds, diapers. There's more. You guys get the point. There's got to be a reason they are moving because housing prices in terms of payments at the same home has more than doubled over this 3-year period, given where rates are now versus where they were in 2020. So, and what I see happening here is that not enough people are taking this seriously. I mean,
I agree.
and they're looking at it like, oh, the market's seasonal. We've already seen 60,000 agents leave the business. We've seen a lot of agents, at least I've observed in my marketplace, they used to be full-time producers. Now they're like part-time agents, and their production has dropped exponentially. So there's going to be an opportunity here for people that want to get serious about their business to go out and take market share because they're working at least 40 hours a week, if not more. The NAR numbers are an average of 30 for last year's what the average agent works. And these kind of markets make great agents. Like when was what were you when did you get licensed, Lisa? Remind me about this.
licensed and actually jumped into the industry 2010 to 2014, 1 to 2 homes a
Okay.
year. So
So 2010 to 2012 kind of sucked, and it more than kind of sucked, and that was a really rough time. We've also been through the pandemic. You and I, kind of went through that together, and had to rally a lot of people around that. So what I'm clear on is that there's an opportunity to really work on your skills and have some tough conversations for when the market does come back. You're really going to cash in, and that's an opportunity for agents. And the answer isn't going somewhere else, finding something else. It's like making phone calls and talking to people and identifying folks that want to transact. That's literally the main job description of a real estate agent. So, how are you navigating this with your team and your organization right now?
we're back to the basics across the board. Absolutely
Time
everything.
out.
We're
So the basics for most agents, I think you're not back to the basics. The basics for most agents are figuring where they're going to go to lunch at 12 o'clock, not actually making phone calls or doing those things, or hey, how do I leave early and go home to watch something. So I don't like that saying. I think it's basic for people that are serious about their business. It's a basic principle, but keep going.
Well, so going back to the old school
There
skills,
we
I
go.
think one of the other things that we need to address is that I think real estate agents right now, mortgage professionals, anybody in the industry needs to learn to get comfortable having uncomfortable conversations. I think it's one of the skills that kind of got lost in 2020 and 2021, and being able to really be empathetic, but also coach clients through some aggressive strategies, right? What we know is that with rates where they're at, and seeing the declines, right? Going into the declines, why are we seeing them? Partly the rates. Affordability is becoming a really big issue, right? The average consumer can afford less home today than they could even 6 months ago. But that being said, I think we're chatting with our agents about the strategies of looking at the inventory that's been sitting on the market, being able to coach consumers through, maybe they have been looking for that forever home, but can we find a home that checks enough boxes where they can be happy for the next 3 to 5 years, right? There's a lot that we can do in that respect. We're going deep. I know you and I have both been. I'm sitting on the sales floor making dials multiple days a week with our agents, going back into the old listing conversations that you and I used to have as we built our
Mhm.
businesses, finessing out marketing presentations and making sure that everything in our businesses is relevant to what's happening in today's market, right? Looking at drip campaigns that we've got going, relooking at the marketing messaging that we're putting out across all platforms to make sure that it's relevant, to make sure that it speaks to consumers, and that we're delivering all the messaging in the right way at the right cadence.
That's a really great point, because while you may understand it in your head, what the 10-year does to the mortgage rates, most people need it broken down in a way they can understand. And I mean, it's no different than when you go to like an attorney or an accountant, and your accountant starts telling you about, well, this rule here or this law here. I don't really need to hear that. I need to hear what it means for me as a taxpayer. And
Correct.
I mean, and that's what great professionals do. That's what people that know their business do. And too many agents, they want to jump into things and over explain it instead of, one, focus on the consumer's needs. That's a number one. If you don't know what their situation is, you really can't help them. Two, break it down in terms of the market about what's actually going on, and navigating it with them, and then taking it from there. So I think that's a really great point. So we talked a little bit about business planning, right? We got all these market conditions happening. I've got bad news for you, Lisa. You can't fix the market conditions, right? Neither can I. This is what we're dealing with. So when we're business planning for ourselves, for our teams, for the folks that we help, for people that, just ask advice, right? All these people. What are some of the basics around business planning that are going to be important? And how are you coaching people up or giving them guidance on coming up with a plan that's actually going to work for them?
I love that. I'm financials, financials, financials. I think making smarter decisions with your money, both personally and professionally, is more important than ever. Though I kind of dig deep into that no matter the market. I think being able to understand that we've got to be able to do less with more. I think everyone needs to reassess whether you're a solo agent, whether you're an agent on a team, whether you're a team leader, a broker, wherever you fall in the spectrum. I know we can all look at our credit card bills and see small little business expenses, even the $10 or $20 a month that we can say, are we using this? Can we cut it? Do we absolutely need it? I think being able to get clear on something that you said earlier, which is how many conversations is it going to actually take? I say it over and over, real estate is math. And the sooner that we can understand what our metrics are and be able to plan it out effectively, the better we're going to be able to plan for the next year, start taking action, and set ourselves up to not just make it through the year, but to thrive in the year
Mm-hmm.
because there's opportunity, right? Going deep into budgets, not just from the financial planning side of things, but also on the marketing side. And that again applies to agents, regardless of whether you're a solo agent on a team,
Mm-hmm.
running a brokerage, being able to understand how to plan for that. Because what you and I know is that the agent that starts a farm, you got to be prepared to have that monthly expense for a minimum of 6 months. And so putting it in, making sure that the money is set aside now and that you're committed to doing the activities to make that investment profitable, not just today, not just next month, but for the next 6 months all in.
So I love that, and I'm going to say there's an additional part of the plan. So Lisa, and this
Oh,
is where the two of us work really well together because Lisa is an operator. She is much more of an operator than I am. I feel like my strengths are more sales related. I mean, let's just call it what it is. So you're doing the farm, right? You budget for it. What sweat equity are you putting into the farm? How are you going to continue? Because if you're expecting direct mail to create a response automatically, it's going to be way lower. And what I'm clear on in this kind of market, and I've been through this, 2008 was to 2012 was similar in that people weren't transacting. It was a different problem. There was tons of inventory, buyers were scarce, right? But transactions were hard to come by. So are you going to be calling them quarterly? Are you going to be door knocking the farm? Are you going to be doing anything else besides just sending direct mail? Because the people that win in this business are the ones that are so focused. They want to dominate. They have an intention and a drive that you can't coach that, right? I can't coach Lisa Chinatti to be driven. She's driven all on her own. You can't get people motivated. They got to motivate themselves, right? Now we can create as a coach or a mentor just listening to this podcast, right? Or a team leader, whatever, broker owner, whoever is helping someone with their business, you can create an environment where it's really easy to do that. But what we can't do is the work for other people. And you've got to have a plan of, hey, here's the financial marketing side, right? And this is where sales meets marketing. What am I doing on a sales side to convert? Because if you're doing a farm, and let's just kind of go deep on this, and your expectation is people are going to call you to list, right? Odds are that person is probably calling two or three other agents. They're one of those sellers that's going to interview a lot of people. And what I know is 70% of consumers hire the first agent they meet with. This is a documented statistic. So if you can be a little more proactive and get in front of them a little sooner, knowing the long game is, hey, maybe it's a 6-month out transaction because that's the game that you got to play in this kind of market, especially heading into the fourth quarter. That's who can maybe get those extra 3, 4, 5 transactions a year, and that can do a lot for your bottom line in your business. So I'm clear it's not only the marketing and the financials, but what are you doing on a daily basis in terms of sweat equity to prime the pump, or load the cannon, whatever analogy you want to use. That's going to be
both are bad, dude. Both are bad.
well, whatever you want to call it, to warm up the funnel, to get your people ready to at least know who you are, and they say, hey, I get your mail, Tom, or Lisa, I saw your video that you sent out, or whatever that might be. That's where things can get really exciting. So that's how I'd be looking at that. But there's definitely multiple components to the business plan. What I'd also add is your plan should not be like 10 pages long. I want this thing on one page with specifics and measurables of what you're going to do on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. Like those are the best plans.
I agree, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And I think one of the things that I always love when we can do is build in an accountability buddy or accountability system around it. Sometimes it can be getting a little vulnerable to share it with somebody and asking them to hold you accountable. But
Mm-hmm.
to your point, when the activities are there, coupled with all of the other components of it, and scheduling those check-ins ahead of time, just like you and I do for our businesses, right? EOS quarterlies are designed to help us stay on track. And we know better than anybody, it's so easy at the end of 90 days to lose sight of where you're going by the end of the year. So I love when agents take the opportunity and take the time to build in their checkpoints at very minimum every 90 days to ensure that they're staying on track with the plan that they set out with a year ago.
If you're looking to level up your business, scale it out, be able to manage more clients, have a bigger pipeline, you're going to need a reliable CRM. And as a Boomtown user since 2016, we've got some exciting news that KV Core and Boomtown are now part of the same family. And that means they've come together. They're using all their knowledge, all their tech, and they're making an even better CRM that's going to help you scale your business, sell more houses, talk to more people, and manage your leads more efficiently. And if you're like Lisa, she's in her CRM every week. She's in her CRM every day. I think that's what she does in her free time. And she's constantly looking at it to make sure that the opportunities aren't slipping through the cracks. That's what a great knowledge broker does. So if you want to get your business to another level, lean into Boomtown. Visit boomtownroi.com/knowledge brokers for more information. Again, it's boomtownroi.com/knowledge brokers. I'm a boomer since 2016. It's leveled my business up tremendously. Lisa loves her CRM. Byron does too. You should do the same. Get with Boomtown. I love that. And EOS is just a way to run your business if you're not familiar with it. It's an operating system that's going to help anyone, really. And the principles are, what are my quarterly goals? Brian, our sales manager, is big on this. I need 90 days. We live in a 90-day world, no matter what happens. And you can't just test stuff for a week. This is where a lot of agents, I made 50 circle dials, Lisa, and I didn't get anybody. This doesn't work, right? Well, you're not testing it. You're not. That's such a small sample size of what it works. So if you're having that 90-day check-in, I love that. I think that's really smart. What I'd also do with accountability, you got to find someone that's going to be equally accountable. And I would argue you probably have to have similar goals. You can't be someone like it can't be. I'll give you an example. A very good friend of mine, he's actually a business partner. He runs a very large tech company, and we partner on some investments. And you've actually met this person, and so he's like, yeah, let's keep each other accountable. And his goals were so different. I didn't even know what the hell he was talking about, and it had nothing to do with me or him. Like, we wanted, but it wasn't. You couldn't help each other that way. Versus, myself, Lisa, and Byron, we have a 3 times a week accountability call. Lisa and I have a 3 times a week accountability call. Byron comes in when he wants. But the point is, we're constantly talking about key metrics in our business, and it's external accountability, but I would argue at this point it's internal, because we're doing it every day, and and even if we can't talk, I'll text you my numbers or whatever it is. Gino Blafari talked about this a couple years ago at a Tom Ferry Team Plus summit or retreat in New York, where sometimes the accountability calls, hey, here's my numbers, I can't talk, goodbye. And even just reporting those numbers and telling someone else about it. And then you have to have those tough conversations with your partner if they're in a spot where they're consistently not hitting their numbers or they're not doing something. That's where it gets exciting, because accountability is the greatest gift you can give somebody. But too many agents, they shy away from it, because either they're not that motivated, they don't want to go out and hit big goals, or they're just okay where they are, which is all fine. But if you are a knowledge broker, you're listening to this podcast, I'd imagine you're looking for a little more out of your business.
All very well said, my friend. All very well said. What else is on the radar?
So we got the commission lawsuit that's going to trial. I think we're just kind of in a wait and see mode on that. I'm a little surprised these other companies haven't settled. I mean, that was something I thought would have maybe happened over the last week. I'm looking at what's going on in the market, and right now it's really, where's inventory going? And inventory's been rising. I mean, there is opportunity out here for people right now. These rates don't help. And at the same time, if you want to get the house that you want, there's an opportunity there. Rates and the Fed are kind of the big story right now. I mean, that.
Oh, well, I think one of the other things, just quickly, I think it's going to be small impact, but the looming government shutdown and what that means for real estate. I know that there's probably some questions kind of floating around about that as well.
So can I give you a prediction?
Yep, go.
The government will not shut down. They're going to wait till the last minute and negotiate a deal. Can we get some odds on this from DraftKings? Are we able to bet on this happening? I mean, this could be a moneymaker for a lot of people. How many times have we seen this, Lisa?
Like once every other year.
Yeah. And has the government ever shut down?
I think there was one. I think I'm
going to look this up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was one, because it definitely something impacted a USDA loan that I had going back in the day.
Okay, it did happen in 2019.
Yeah.
It was the longest shutdown in history. What horrible memories we have. This is 4 years ago. And it was the funding argument was over a proposed plan to build a wall along the U.S. border with Mexico. So the government did shut down. It was from December 21st. It was about a month. It was from the 21st of
Yeah.
2018 until January 2019.
Yeah, I actually do remember that now. But so I think it's something I've heard a couple of conversations from consumers, so I think it's something that, we should all definitely just kind of be keeping an eye on. Arm yourself with some information about what that means. Not going to impact the day to day, but for any consumers or agents who are working in markets where there's a lot of USDA loans or um, anything with HUD could be a little bit impacted on that side of things.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think none of the registries of deeds are going to shut down. Typical banking's not going to shut down. It really is just the funding of some of those loan products.
So Housing Wire put an article out about this, and they did mention a couple things here. So anything regarding the EPA. Now, FHA, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac and USDA could be a problem. I think that's a really great point, as well as anything VA as well. But
I forgot about the VA. Yes, that's definitely in there as well.
And there's no contingency plan released yet, but FHA apparently has already done this according to NAR, and they have an FAQ document that was prepared. I'm glad they have a contingency plan in place, although I don't see this happening. I mean, if I was betting on this, I would take this would be like minus like 1,000 that like a government shutdown actually happens. So for those of you who don't know what that means, it means you'd have to bet $1,000 to win $1.
Not
Interesting
worth
stuff.
it.
Not worth it.
Yeah.
Well, it's worth it because it's not going to happen. So, I mean, it just depends how much risk tolerance that you have. What about student loan payments impacting mortgage affordability? Is that something you anticipate coming up? Because we kind of glossed over this last week when we were at band camp, but that's a monthly debt that's on people's credit report, and we're talking about these rates. And the average student loan payment, I think, is around $200 to $300 a month. Is what the I'll get the exact number here in a second. And this is coming back next week, right? So what's your analysis there? What are your observations, Lisa?
I think it's definitely going to have impact. I think we're kind of foolish to think that it won't have impact, right? Debt to income ratio is definitely a big part of it. Do I think it's going to be a huge impact? No, not huge, because people are still going to buy, but it's just one more factor that is impacting affordability and makes the 7.6% rates that we're talking about today, 7.6,
Mm-hmm.
feel even more impactful.
So the average monthly federal loan payment for anyone with a bachelor's degree is $284. And that's going to obviously take away from available housing payments. You look at a 50% DTI, a debt to income ratio. So that's, at a 6% rate, that's basically like that's roughly like $45,000-$50,000 of financing ability. So it's going to be even less at the current rates. And average federal loan payments on master's degree holders are $584 a month. So that could potentially be that's close to $100,000 of affordability at 7.5 rates. So
Right.
this is going to have an impact. And I feel like the people that get squeezed the most by this are these first-time home buyers and people that are trying to get in the market in the first place. They can afford
Right.
it. They have high rental payments, but this is not how it works. You have to look at DTI, and it's on your credit report.
Right. Right.
So October 1st is coming up. And I want to end with this and see what Lisa Chinatti says. And then, we're into business planning season. We talked about this. How are you advising the knowledge brokers out there listening about what to do over the next 90 days? What is the forget the business plan for next year. What's the fourth quarter plan people should be thinking about right now? What should they be doing? What are the things that are going to help them have a monster first quarter? Because anything you do right now is likely not going to have an impact on the fourth quarter. This is all your work from the last quarter. What advice do you have for those folks that want to finish the year strong and come into 2024 with their hair on fire?
Double down on your conversations. So it's that simple. Double down on your conversations.
I agree. So let's go deeper, right? Like talk to people, that's fine. I'm clear you want to break down your conversations, and you've probably heard this before. The first place everyone should be going is their client base and their sphere, and be having meaningful conversations with those people right now. I'm going to kick it to you for the next group. what number a day would you advise somebody? I'm clear the minimum should be at least 5 because these conversations take some time. I don't. If you're doubling down, you might want to go to 10. Right? You're going to actually have conversations with these folks. If they pick up the phone, it's not going to be like, "Hey, Lisa, it's Tom Toole here. I'm following up as promised. I know we talked in the past about a property in XYZ. Do you have any questions about the market? Is there anything I can help you with?" Whatever your script's going to, that's not the script, right? It's the forward script. Hey, Lisa, how are the girls doing? How's your daughter doing at college right now? How's Steve? Hey, how's the work environment been for you? Got any fun plans for the fall, right? And this is actually an easy time of year to call these folks because you can express gratitude with Thanksgiving coming up. You can wish them a happy holiday, great end of the year. I mean, it's probably 5 to 10 would be what I'd recommend to folks. And maybe even spending some time to build out who your sphere actually is if you haven't done that exercise.
Yeah, I think that there's a few things. I think that I think everybody should be looking at it and saying quite clearly, I've got 40 hours a week where I'm dedicating it to real estate. And I would look at it very openly, very honest with yourself. How many hours a week do you need for showings? How many hours a week do you need to finesse some of your systems and some of your, the basics, the structure that you use in your individual business? And that could be cleaning up your database. It could be building out some additional campaigns. It could be adding in the birth dates and the anniversary dates. And then my honest opinion is the rest of those 40 hours should without a doubt be spent on the phone, having conversations or meeting face to face over a cup of coffee, grabbing lunch and reconnecting. And so honestly, I think it's more than 10 conversations a day. I think it's easily 15 to 20. I think that that's if
I'm just
you
talking
are
10
being
sphere.
honest with
No, I'm
yourself.
talking 10 sphere. I'm not even talking about the people you don't know. I think you got to, there's more than, I'm in agreement. It's got to be more than 10. That's not enough.
Yeah. Like I said, I really think it's having a true, honest conversation about what can you do in your schedule, being super clear on that time block, being super committed, and literally just doing the things. That's it.
And if you don't have appointments, and this is where a lot of people fall into the trap, and I think you got to be having 20 conversations a day. Tom Ferry, we both know him. They charted the numbers in their organization and is taking on average their clients right now. So this is about 6,000 agents. About 20 conversations is the number to get an appointment. Now your skill level
Sounds about right.
may not be that high yet though, because these are people that it's a wide range of folks, right? I know my number's going up substantially just from like you. I'm making sales calls every day with our team. I'm looking to set listing appointments. My number's not the normal 12 to 13. It's definitely 20 plus, and I'm only going after listings. So that number's even going to vary from listings to buyers, right? So you want to kind of figure that in. So it's 20 plus at least a day. And the folks that you don't know, I'd be looking at old leads that have come in, not even like 90 days. I'd be looking at leads from like a year or two ago and making sure you're doing all the things in terms of property drips and that sort of stuff. That's one. Secondly, I'd be looking at, okay, maybe someone I lost contact with and that had some interest and maybe they fell off a little bit because a lot of agents just give up on those people. And those people do come back to the market, especially if they ever wrote an offer in the past. They had intent at some point. So
Yep.
I'd be looking at those folks as well. Don't hold it personally against them. The market is changing, right? And maybe people don't like what's going on in the market. So they decide, hey, I'm just going to take a break. Right or wrong, this is what people do, and they do it on their schedule. And you can't coach readiness with those folks. And I would literally, if you're going to do the one thing, Gary Keller style, have a conversation goal that's going to get you to where you need to be. And you probably need to be role playing as well on a daily basis to practice these conversations. Like, hey, so what do you think about
Absolutely.
interest rates, Lisa? Like, know how to handle that. How, like,
Totally.
not in this, well, oh, it's a great, and if you say it's a great time to buy or a great time to sell to anybody right now, I mean, you got to be realistic because people don't want to hear that.
Totally.
You're saying double down
Totally.
in conversations. I agree with you. So, what do you do if you have white space in your calendar? Does that include prepping for the lead gen time? Are you following the Harvard Business Review green and black chart about the best times to call? How are you time blocking your schedule, Lisa, as someone that wants to ramp up your business in the fourth quarter as an agent?
Just that. Like I said, I think it's understanding the times, like you said, when activities can occur, time blocking it in. I'm also going to add, and I know you feel slightly differently sometimes, but self care is important. It's a
I,
tough
I
market.
totally disagree with that. I take care of myself all the time.
Fair, but so I think it's important for agents to block that in as well.
Yes.
Make sure that it's all fitting in there. But then I go back to accountability around it. It's easy to set it. It's easy to say that you're going to do it, and another thing to actually just do it, and to do it for 90 days, to be super consistent about it.
And that is a great point. And again, I'll reference our amazing sales manager Brian Blauk here. He's had 37 years of management experience, right? And he says if you're not testing something for 90 days, you're not testing it. Period. You're not giving it enough time. The results aren't going to happen overnight. It's the flywheel effect. It's sustained action over time, not the magic bullet approach. So I could not agree with that more. I think that's a great way to end the show here. Lisa, what do you have to add? Last word.
Legit nothing.
Okay.
That's it. Just do the work, do the things.
Pay attention to the market, understand the knowledge you need to have meaningful conversations, right? Jimmy Mackin talked about this on a webinar with Tom about this plan they're rolling out where it can't be the lazy voicemail. It's got to be the meaningful voicemail, value added. That's what people want because there are people that are going to transact out there. Despite rates and everything else, you just got to find them. So go get that knowledge. Lisa and I are out for this week. Let's start October strong and appreciate you guys tuning in.